Welcome back, beloveds. I'm continuing with our book reading session on big feelings, very important and essential work to practice in our everyday life. You may have your own copy as well because this book talks about all important, difficult emotions that we all go through. So, as usual, I will be discussing on the topic what are the important points around the concept. I will walk you through the teachings about the topic. Of course, it is accompanied by a psychological perspective, and I share my own personal learnings from this chapter and will end up with a few tools and methods to deal with a particular emotion that we discuss about. So, yeah, for today's session, I'm going to walk you through a very important concept or our everyday experience, which usually we don't like, or it's something that we want to have our 100% control over, but that's a goal that is unachievable, as in hitting the wrong target. I'm talking about the experience called uncertainty. Now, before we actually dive into this topic, uncertainty, there are 2 points which are important. First, uncertainty is a part of our life. When I say part of our life, that is something that is attached with our life's experiences. So it's not something to run from, to avoid, or to eliminate it altogether, but it's a part of our life. So basically, it demands us to develop, to acquire, to learn skills to deal with this part of life called uncertainty. And second point, uncertainty is inevitable. So, no matter how equipped you are in terms of resources, in terms of a rich mindset, in terms of the skills and potentials and abilities, and so on, still uncertainty is inevitable. So these are the two main points. If you fail to understand this thing, then there is no point in understanding the topic itself. Now, before we dive into the concept of uncertainty, we need to understand three important points. We experience uncertainty when there is lack of clarity or control. So when we experience that we do not have control over something that we want to happen or that we are looking forward to in terms of attainment of goals or something, and there is lack of control over it, we experience uncertainty. Second point is unpredictability, when we cannot predict what is likely to happen or what is going to happen. And third, when we think in our own mind, as in our perception is totally on the negative side. So basically, we think that whatever can happen or will happen will be totally bad, negative, or worse. So these are the 3 points to uncertainty. Now, does it happen that you try to control all the events in your life so that you can avoid uncertainty, or is your experience more on this other two side? So the first one is, do you feel uncertain about the results, that it will not serve as per your plan or expectations? That's point number one. Or do you feel more anxious or uncertain about if things didn't work out? Maybe that's okay, maybe I can accept that, I understand that, but you feel more anxious about not being able to handle yourself when that thing happens. You are anxious about, I won't be able to trust myself again, I won't be able to integrate myself into this experience again. Or you feel that I may not be able to trust myself or life again, and that makes you feel more anxious. So these are some important points to reflect on as we discuss or learn about uncertainty. Another thing to uncertainty is the emotion we feel in response to uncertain events. And there are two basic emotions. whenever anything is revolved around unpredictability, what we feel is fear and anxiety, and that's how our brains are built up. In my two sessions on stress and another one on learned helplessness, I have very elaboratively discussed about how our body and brain functions in response to stress or unpredictability, and what mechanisms actually starts what mechanisms activates in our brain and in our body, because of which we respond in a particular way. So you may like to go back to those videos to help yourself with. Now, but there are these two basic emotions when it comes to unpredictability, or when we think that we are losing our control. First thing is fear. Now understand that fear has to do with a real potential danger which is in front of you. That's when you should experience fear, because you can see danger right then and there in front of your eyes, and it is realistic. But when it comes to anxiety, it's a apprehensive feeling about something which you think may happen or may not happen, but you are freaking over that unpredictability of things likely to happen or not happen. So you are totally negative and apprehensive about things of which you yourself are not sure, but you want to be sure about, and you cannot be, and that's when you experience anxiety. So you see, fear has to do with a real specific stimulus, whereas anxiety has to do with no specific stimulus. Okay, so it's like you feel apprehensive about of the unseen, of which you are not aware of. Okay, now there are few points which were really good in this, and yeah, the first one has to do with our role as expert forecasters. And what the author says is, we tend to be too confident about our ability to predict the future. Behavioral scientists have shown that we are overly optimistic about things we want to happen. We notice immediate changes but tend to overlook longer term shifts. And we overemphasize the importance of new information that fits into our beliefs. So basically, our role as expert forecasters, which doesn't work. And what is the error here? It's black and white thinking. It's all or nothing thinking. Either one is totally overconfident or overly optimistic about things that will happen or that has worked out for the person, and on the other side we have this thing that things may not work out at all, like thinking all the bad and all the worst. So it is all or nothing thinking. Neither it can be 100% optimistic all the time, nor it can be 100% negative all the time. And in this oscillation of our experience, as in terms of expectation, what happens is we tend to overlook certain obstacles, certain setbacks, or certain uncontrollable events or factors that could also play a role. So for example, if a student wants to, if a student is well prepared, or even you in your work is well prepared for something and you want to achieve that goal, okay, now what happens is that for whatever reason things didn't work out. Now what is the first thing? Suppose if it's like it's all my fault, we tend to identify with the problem, we tend to personalize, then you are just overlooking the other factors also that contributed. So for example, maybe you couldn't anticipate certain data, or maybe the research was not fully covered, or maybe the institution had their own plans. Okay, as in the case of students, the questions are totally unpredictable, right? Or maybe the questions from audience are totally unpredictable. So for some things of which you are already well prepared, or you have experience about, or using your experience, maybe you could just deal with it properly and there was some attainment of goal or success. But for the things that didn't work out, actually there were other factors as well. So when we tend to overly emphasize on something that it will work out, if this relationship didn't work out today, I'm sure in the future it will work out. Now that is possible, but that doesn't mean that you just have that belief or faith about something and then you're not doing anything about it. That doesn't mean that you overlook the negative experience you had with work or with someone or with an experience itself. You cannot overlook the learnings which you could have gained from that experience. But when we overlook all these obstacles and we don't pay attention to the learnings and the lessons, and most importantly when we overlook our own role, when we don't examine our own role in the process or in that experience, and second important thing, when we are not willing to work at the root cause of our own problem, that's when your overly optimism or thinking just about the bad and the worst, either way this black and white thinking, it's not going to work. So that is one point which is contributing in the experience of uncertainty. To summarize it, we are actually not best forecasters or expert in predicting out something. And what research also says, that our brains are not at all equipped, or our brain doesn't have the skill to predict accurately. Basically, whenever we try to predict something that is coming from your own past experiences or memories, or something that you think is likely to occur. So actually this prediction, this planning and everything needs to be there, and of course it works for us. Like I said, you cannot be passive about it, you have to be active about it, but without overlooking certain facts as well as obstacles. So basically we are predicting that is based on our memories, our past experiences. It also includes the skills, the knowledge, the learnings, and using a sense of discrimination or understanding from the point of intuition, or keeping something as an anchor point, as a point of reference. You can actually predict, okay, it might happen like this. So the point being, we can anticipate, we should anticipate, but being very very realistic about our anticipation. We are not on the extremes of the pole, as in the case of all or nothing thinking. Second thing which I want to discuss with you from a psychological perspective is magical thinking. So usually patients who have this diagnosis of anxiety or anxiety disorders, or are experiencing anxiety, let's say, they don't want to give up on their anxiety or on their thoughts of anxiety, because the hidden part of it, the root part of it is this magical thinking. There is this sense of belief and faith in a negative thought that says that if I worry enough, then I'm sure that things will not happen, and that's how I will save myself and be totally okay in face of uncertainty. So I really want you to reflect on this, okay? If I worry enough, if I overthink about it enough, if I think about it enough, if I constantly ruminate about it enough, or if I constantly be anxious about it, then the thing that I'm afraid of or worrying about or anxious about might not happen. Now this is an error, okay? And this is the magical thinking. And that's why people tend to worry a lot and be anxious about certain things a lot, which matters to them the most, because they think that if I don't do this work enough internally, by torturing myself, by criticizing myself, and by overlooking a perspective or a realistic case, let's say, then bad things will actually happen. Now you just reflect on your life. Suppose you had an important examination or an important event or a presentation, or you were actually looking forward to something, and maybe intentionally or consciously or unconsciously, you may thought that if I think about this enough, or maybe not in this way, the way I'm putting it, you may not have articulated it this way, but it's surely the case that if I just go about this thing on and on and on, then what I'm afraid of will not happen. That's the first case. But it is a distortion, it's a magical thinking, it's an error, and it doesn't work, beloveds. Second thing is, um, what happens in the process is that you actually may not pay attention to the work that needs to be done, which could actually help you in the face of uncertainty. Okay. And the second thing is, yeah, what I stress about is so much, like, and the probability that it will happen is just this much. This you could also reflect on, and it is serving the first point of magical thinking. So maybe you stress about something, like anything, like you were just totally mad about it, totally mad about it, and what was the likelihood that it did happen? Nothing. Now in such case, you may come into faulty conclusion. Okay. So the first faulty conclusion could be, oh wow, it's because I stressed about it so much, I was so anxious about it so much, I was close to death about it so much, that's why I could face this uncertainty, because I knew that bad will happen. I knew that worse will happen. And now it happened. So, okay, I be okay about it. But this is a very passive style of responding. Okay? And if things did work out, then also you might think it this way, that because I worried so much, because I got anxious about it so much, and so it worked. And yeah, that is third possible conclusion also. It helps me, it motivates me to do something. Of course, we need optimal level of anxiety to motivate us. Okay, because that's how our brains and our body are built up. But you understand that optimal level, it just works in the background without it's something that is effortless. Like it doesn't get into your, it doesn't disturb your daily functioning, and there is no mental breakdowns. Okay. And what she says here, there is this beautifully explained, there is this statement: we want to be absolutely sure that something bad is going to happen, then deal with ambiguity. So yeah, that's the role which I explained to you about. Basically, it's like choosing unhappiness over uncertainty. This is second, another important point, choosing unhappiness over uncertainty. The point is, we like comfort zone, we like to be in comfort zone, we prefer familiarity over unfamiliarity, because our brains are built up like that. And this is another evidence that your brain cannot actually predict with accuracy, but it is choosing your familiar experiences. So in the past, if you had more of a successful positive experience over uncertainty, let's say, then your confidence in yourself and in your skill is likely to be on a higher level. And in that case also, you may overlook certain things. Okay, or some of the time or most of the time things may work out for you. But in the process, you could be dealing with a lot of negative emotions. If you are working with it, fine, you are on good track, not a problem at all. Otherwise, if your past experience mostly has been negative, or in, let's say, in terms of a failure, and you haven't overcome it yet, then before you begin even with a small daily routine, forget about the big project or a task, even in starting something new in your daily routine may give you more of low confidence and negative feelings than thinking, why don't you just try? I mean, what's wrong with trying? Okay, so this is choosing unhappiness over uncertainty. What we do is we prefer familiarity. So because we, even if it's painful, even it's full of suffering, even if it's not working out for me, but because I know, because I can predict the badness in this situation or experience, let me just go about it. And the best example of this is toxic relationship, or being in with someone whom you know is actually not working for you, and the feeling is I knew that I had to leave this relationship or this job or this work for a long time ago, but I chose familiarity, I chose unhappiness over uncertainty. Okay, my third personal learning from this chapter is stop manipulating yourself and be specific. Very, very important. Now, stop manipulating yourself means hypnotizing, like hypnotizing yourself into a positive mindset. Like literally hypnotizing yourself into positive mindset. In other words, forcing yourself to be overly optimistic and totally eliminating the reality part of it, the evidence or the factual part of it. Basically, not using your smart brain, your frontal cortex, which does the planning part, the decision part, and which realistically evaluates the pros and cons of the situation, not focusing on this part, but just going on with just a mere faith, or the unseen, or the emotional part of your brain. So but stop manipulating yourself, like to be just the positive, to see the bright side, and saying this, the grass is always greener on the other side. This is a famous, like very popular saying, no? The grass is always greener on the other side. Now this particular quote, the grass is always greener on the other side, in itself contains a cognitive distortion, a thinking error. Guess what? Because you have learned it, so guess it. Always. Things cannot always be positive and things cannot always be negative. And of course, it all comes down to the perception of it. Like, what is your perception about that event? Otherwise, things are totally neutral. So, the grass doesn't need to be always greener on any of the side because it's not always, and it is not never also. Okay. And then when we believe like that, when we manipulate ourselves that just go about it, it's okay to go about it, but you need to realistically evaluate the skills which you already have. So a one column, the skills which I already have. Second side, the skills I need to learn or to develop in order to reach the goal or to whatever you are working towards. This is realistically dealing with adversity, anxiety, or uncertainty, because you are realistically evaluating your strengths and your weaknesses. You are not going hopelessly positive about something. That's what I mean when I say stop manipulating yourself. Rather, choose to be specific. You know what? This is what I have with resources. This is what I can cultivate or acquire. These are the skills I have already learned, gained, and this is what I still need to work upon. And this is what I have, and this is what I don't have, and most importantly, this is what I need in order to face something which is in front of me. Okay? Now, coming to the method part, how you can be comfortable with uncertainty. Now I have, just to make it simple, I have selected two steps I want to talk about, as in how you can help yourself navigate this chaos of uncertainty. Okay. Before that, the author talks about some interesting points in the section methods. So let's walk through that first. Okay, first she talks about anxious fixing. Now, what is anxious fixing? Okay, there's a good theory about it. What happens is, many times we do all trivial things, all unnecessary things, or we get too busy with something and we feel that okay, things are going up. It's just uh, checking with your checklist, all tick marks, everything is done, and yet you feel negative, yet you feel anxious, yet you are not able to accept with the uncertainty part of it. Why? Because you are not working with the root cause of the problem. So anxious fixing is preventing yourself in dealing with the root cause of the problem. So for example, maybe there is maybe you are not being assertive enough, and maybe you are not being able to be assertive enough, and you are not ready to deal with it. And so what you are doing is working extra and being people pleasing, giving extra help to others without they even asking about it, or being submissive also, yeah, like just being okay with whatever is asked of. But and then you feel anxious about each and every thing that I just mentioned. But the root problem of your anxiety is not being assertive enough. Second thing, maybe there is a problem in the relationship, and that's why you are feeling a bit more depressed or anxious. But instead of confronting using the communication or talking about the problem, that you find ways to avoid the relationship or the communication. You get overly busy about something, and then trivial things might just upset you and you feel anxious about it. For example, what if I have left something open, or what if something will not arrive, let's say that I have ordered, or suppose you have to go for an event and you think what if this, what if that. But maybe the root problem is something that you are struggling with difficult emotions that you are not paying attention to, and that is surfacing up. But each time you choose something different, you do it very well, but you still feel lot of anxiety. So that is called anxious fixing, preventing self from working to the root cause of the problem. And of course, what is the solution? You have to recognize the emotion, you have to sit with it and resolve it by taking actionable steps. Be very specific and deal with it, resolve it. That's the solution. Okay. Another interesting thing she says is, I really love this line. You can't figure out your entire life in the moment. You don't need to have all the answers right now. Well, this is truly a personal lesson, because to be honest, I do demand this thing, but okay, I'm learning. So the point is, you don't need to have all the answers right now or right in the moment. The habit I was talking about is to be clear about a lot of things that are disturbing me, and wanting everything just to be clear, like to have all the answers so that my brain and I can figure out whatever it is, positive or negative. The goal was just to figure it out. But the point is that the beauty in the unknown, or to face the unknown, because it's going to be there, okay, the inevitable part of life. So you don't need to have all the answers right now. There is this another thinking error also. When we think I should have all the answers, I need to be clear about certain things, I need to have this otherwise I won't be able to manage myself, or what all. So the error is should statement, like I should be like this, I should not be like this, I should have predicted it before, how could I just failed at it, how come I didn't foresee this thing, it's all my fault. You see how, where is it going? These are just examples. I want you to reflect on your own experience, note these thoughts down and see where is an error of all or nothing thinking, as in black and white thinking, or should statements. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to do the reframing work, that you consider, you get specific, you consider the facts, the evidences, and change it. Okay, she talks about the growth mindset here, so you may also choose to see it like I'm a person who is learning to, or I'm a person who is experiencing this, or I'm a person who is developing or learning this skill, applying the power of yet, in other words growth mindset. Okay, and yeah, this is something I came up with. Now there are times when things are actually challenging, and whatever signals you are getting from your body, they are not totally wrong. Okay, so in that situation you need to have courage to do one thing, that is run fast, just get out of it. Run fast as you can and just get out of it. Now how you will know this? Beloved, you just know it. You need to acknowledge it, sit with it, stand up, run fast and get out. That's how you know it. Okay. Another interesting thing she talks about is the withins and the beyonds. Of course, this is something we know, but it's an interesting vocabulary. It makes things easier for us. So again, make a column. On one side, write down the withins. The other side, write down the beyonds. Now, what are withins? Of course, things that are in our control, but our focus goes on the other side. So what we can do is, and what she talks about is, just make a list of all the within. So just to make it more specific, on the top write down goal. Okay, whatever you are working towards, on the top write down goal. Go to the within column and write down what all things are there which is within your control. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, brainstorm it completely, without any judgment. So what all are the points that are within your control, and then turn every point into a specific question or an actionable step. Okay, like you have to just take an action. So this is like giving a blueprint to yourself and to your brain that, hey my brain or my body, I understand that we both are so respectful of each other that we threaten ourselves to death, but you know what, your techniques are not working and you are making my life more miserable. Here is the blueprint, I give it to you. So in case you go crazy and get into this fight or flight mode in order to control something, or if you want to be more predictable, just go back to this blueprint. Here is a list of the withins in response to the attainment of goal, and that's what we both will be focusing on. Tata, bye bye. So basically you have a clear blueprint for yourself. And then is the other column is the beyond. So beyonds are everything that are beyond our control, and you may list down that in response to the goal or any event, what are the things that are not in your control. 1, 2, 3, 4, just write down, and then notice. Here is the technique you can use. Notice that whenever you go in that beyond category, just use a Q word. CUE, a Q word. So you say the word noticed, or the beyonds, or the unpredictable, anything. Just choose one Q word for yourself, and then notice and then see, whenever you fall into the column of the beyonds, use this Q word, let's say the beyond, and automatically you are labeling it, your anxiety, your uncertainty, with the Q word, which means you are being mindful about it, you have paid attention to it, you have recognized it, you have respected your mind and brain, and that would be enough, and come out of it and go into the within step, the actionable step. So hope this has helped you to learn interesting things about uncertainty. I would leave you with a beautiful quote by Franklin Roosevelt. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Again, the only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. So do the work, beloved. See you in the next session. Thank you so much.